Hey everybody, it's me, Sophie, and Marco's here, and we're going to dish out on the movies. Just wanted to say that we haven't been doing this for a few weeks because December is a really bad month for us. First, Marco caught this, what we are calling it in the area, the virus from hell. And then when I went to get him some medicine, just about a half a block away, I ran into a water delivery truck and I totaled my car. So I had to get a new used one, and then I got the virus from hell. And now my husband has the virus from hell. So it has been a really bad month for us. So, and I can talk, but it's a little hard. And Marco's really pretty much back to normal. So that's why we haven't done anything. We didn't do our Hallmark week. We still plan to do everything we wanted to and finish up. We've already watched all the movies we're supposed to watch. So it's just a matter of doing the recordings and uploading them. And so this is our combination why we haven't done our channel work. And Gorgon. The Gorgon is a Hammer horror movie that was released in 1964.
But wait a second, I just want to emphasize I didn't catch something. I was given it by someone at a fast food place.
Yes, the person, when you work somewhere and you're really ill and you're coughing and sneezing and blowing your nose, if you have the sick days, take them.
Or if you're
if you're an employer,
she was coughing up a storm.
Don't let an employee get anywhere near anybody else who's got, and give them something, because we went to a fast food place, and this was be another thing right at the beginning of December. Like, the whole month has not been a good month. They coughed all over our food that we were given, the sack and who knows what else. And that's why Marco and I were the only ones who went. he got it first, and then I caught it, and then we gave it to my husband. So it's that was the beginning. I really left that out of the story of December 2018.
Well, it was also November for me. I was sick around the ending of November as well.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
So
okay,
that's what happened.
So should we do our movie now?
Yeah, it's the Gorgon that we're doing.
Okay, well, the Gorgon actually is a Greek myth. The Gorgon is actually a Greek myth about three sisters who have heads of swirling snakes. And when you look at one of these sisters, you'll be turned into stone. Now, in this movie, there's only one spirit of one sister, but the name that they give, they call it Megira. There is no such sister. Let's see. The real sisters, which if anybody cares about it, is Atheno, Uriel, and Medusa. And Medusa is pretty well known by many people, at least the name. And if you want to look up that myth, it's really interesting. Greek myths and all are very interesting. But anyway, they somehow weave this myth about the Gorgon into the story. So the movie takes place in Vandorf village in Germany in 1910. Bruno Heitz is a painter, and he's boyfriend of Sasha Koss. Presently, he is painting her in a half-dressed pose. It's time for them to stop for the day, and she announces that she's pregnant. His reaction is that he is marching down to her father to tell him all about it. Now,
which is very strange.
I have to say, now, I thought this was weird because since it's 1910 in the olden days, but even today, what boyfriend in his right mind would do such a thing? Fearing for his life because people are very protective of their daughters. I don't care what year it is. So after Bruno leaves, Sasha hurriedly dresses herself and runs out the door. She hears this strange sound through the woods, and curious, she follows it, even though she's worried about what her boyfriend's doing. But the sound is so intriguing, she has to follow it, and it leads to a place called Bortsky Castle. Now, then, what happens next was very fast. That she sees something and it causes her to scream, and she's scared. And then she runs and falls down and dead. Sorry. The villagers find her body and take it to Dr. Namarov's office at Bandorf Mental Institution. Why they do that, I guess, is just because that's what they do in this town. But Peter Cushing plays Dr. Namarov. The next day, Bruno, the boyfriend, is accused of killing Sasha, even though any sound-minded person would know he could not have turned her into a stone statue. When they find Bruno, has he been turned into a stone statue? No. He was strung up in a tree, a very high tree. He had been lynched. But what do the town coroner and Dr. Namarov say about Bruno? Oh, he killed himself. Which, looking at the scene, anyone would know it was a lynching. Bruno's father, Professor Jules Heitz, played by Michael Goodliffe, comes to investigate and realizes the truth. He calls on his son Paul Heitz, played by Richard, Pascoe, and his friend Professor Meister, played by Christopher Lee, of all people. Apparently, what they discover is that there has been 7 murders of people being turned to stone in 5 years. And the town has united in a massive cover-up to hide these murders.
A cover-up, you mean killing innocent people?
Well, yeah. And also the lynchings, because they're for nothing. The boyfriend didn't do anything except get her pregnant, but really? Also more importantly, is that the murders only happen when it's a full moon. So, what happens next? Does the truth come out? Who or what is behind the murders? And does anybody else get murdered? Okay, Marco, you're going to have to take it over because I'm about to cough all over the place.
Okay, well, this movie I was expecting to be really good because I think it beat we did this thing on Facebook where we did a competition between all the Hammer movies, and I think the Gorgon beat like Dracula 80 in 1972, or like Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, or Dracula is Risen from the Grave. You know, one of the better Hammer movies. And so I was like, how in the heck could this beat one of those? and apparently it's like a classic. So we watched it, and I gotta say it was pretty disappointing overall. It's for me, it's not even as good as Terror of the Tongs. I like Terror of the Tongs more because there's more action and because there's more excuse me, there's more of a bad guy in the movie instead of just this. I don't know how to describe this movie. It's very slow, as people said. People actually warn you and say this movie's really boring or it's really slow. And I didn't I mean, it stars Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. I mean, how could that be possible? Well, it's possible. Peter Cushing in this movie, he's he's like a wet blanket of a character. He just, whenever he's on screen, he just sucks all the energy out of the movie, and I was really disappointed in his character because I didn't know Peter Cushing could do such a bad job, because he was not right for this part. That's for sure. Christopher Lee was pretty good, but his character was boring too, and the hero is kind of boring as well. I like some stuff about the movie. I think it's entertaining. It's got good music. It has a good idea for a bad guy, although the snakes look fake. And but the thing is, that's not my biggest problem. My biggest problem is that the monster is hardly in the movie at all. In monster form, that is. Spoiler alert. Most of the movie, she's disguised as a human with real emotions.
And
And
beautiful.
oh, really, Safi?
Well, she's not a. She doesn't have a mass of swirling snakes on her head.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate too because Hammer Studios was not a good studio in terms of uh, being nice to their actors and adapting the movie to where the actor would be happy.
That's not true.
What do you mean?
Because of that Dracula movie we just watched.
Oh, that's
I guess there's
that's another
exceptions to the
example.
rule.
That's another example. Because here's the thing, in this movie, the redhead girl, she suggested number one that she plays the Gorgon, and also that they use real snakes in the wig, like some nice little garden snakes, and they declined. And after the movie came out, they said, "Oh, we should have done that. We really should have. That would have been really good." And so it's just another example. And then you have Dracula, Prince of Darkness. He wouldn't say, Christopher Lee would not say his lines because he thought they sounded silly. And modern day, they would say the director would say, "Okay, you think they're silly. What else could you say? Could you say it like this or like this?" They didn't do that back then. It was almost like, there's a hierarchy, and if you're not at the top of the hierarchy, then what you say doesn't really have anything matter. And sorry, that sounds weird. And then with Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, you had, of course, uh, the blonde girl Veronica, her character getting raped by Peter Cushing, and that was stupid, of course. And Peter Cushing did not want to do that. He felt very uncomfortable, and modern day, they would say, okay, what else? Could we do something else? Like maybe you kiss her and then she rejects you or something like that. And nope. They just force them to do it. And so with this movie, anyways, back to this movie in general. most of it is just about the town covering it up and about how nobody will believe the existence of the Gorgon. And it's just like with The Hitcher, where that movie doesn't have enough of what you expect. It's just full of stuff that you would never expect. Because most of this movie, just like with The Hitcher, has nothing to do with the monster. It's more about the town. And in The Hitcher, it was more about him being framed and running from the police. So what do you think, Savi? Don't you agree that this movie's just more about like the town and how they're ignorant about the monster in general? I mean, that's just I don't like that. I think that's stupid. I mean that's all. I mean, this movie should have had a lot more of the monster.
I agree with that. I didn't want to say anything about the monster because I'll just say, spoiler alert, the monster is the assistant to Peter Cushing, and he has a crush on her, and I don't know, did he realize it was her all along or not?
Oh, he knew it was her all
Okay.
along.
So here he's covering up something else. The thing for me, I thought that was really weird about the movie. I kind of liked the movie, except it was true that Gorgon hardly was in it at all. And when she was, I mean, I thought it was the same actress, just because the Gorgon itself, what it is, it's supposed to be her spirit, and then the full moon, it's like like a vampire, she changes into the Gorgon. But this, so I expect her to look different, like in for the werewolf. When there's a full moon, the guy doesn't look anything like a guy. He looks like a werewolf. And Dracula, well, Dracula, but
Yeah, but
like,
in this, she's a completely different person. She's got black hair.
She's a completely different actress.
She looks like a different nationality. Like the redhead looks, I don't know, American. And then the black haired girl looks more like German.
Well,
or British, whatever. They look different. They don't look anywhere near each other.
Prudence Hyman plays the Gorgon, the actual monster part, and Barbara Shelley plays Carla Hoffman, who's Peter Cushing's assistant. But what was interesting about this movie was the fact, if you're a fan of Hammer horror movies, is that Peter Cushing played in a role which I did not like at all, because the thing is, he was playing a liar who was covering up for crimes and weird occurrences with outright lies. And it was even worse because I think he may have been the only one who knew that his assistant was the Gorgon. Now that Marco brings that up, that he thought that he knew. So I didn't like that, because usually he plays the good guy, and it seems like he didn't feel comfortable with playing this kind of role either.
He wasn't even good at playing the bad guy.
Well, that's because he's always plays a good guy, and whatever kind of good he's doing, it's always good. And then, I mean, this guy, he does the same thing he does in other movies. He plays somebody who's scholarly, who is really smart. So when you see somebody who's really smart and scholarly lying about something really obvious, he says that Bruno murders Carla, or Sasha, sorry, and he knows for a fact he saw the body was stone, total stone. He knows that that's a body of stone, and Bruno couldn't have done that. And then, of course, the whole town knows that part too, because it's a small town. Anybody who's lived in a small town, we've talked about this in other reviews. Everybody knows everything about everybody else, and if something like this, it's not something people keep quiet. And if you see a body of stone, everybody's going to find out about it probably within an hour. Okay?
You
I've
think
lived in a small town.
it's
I know what it's like.
it's not the problem with the idea of the monster.
No, but
Like
that's a good thing. It's
the
interesting.
monster's cool and everything, but the problem is that is that the monster really has nothing to do. The monster doesn't really shape the plot of the movie.
It's actually
It's
what the town
yeah,
does,
it's
which
really
is
more
cover
this
up
stupid town
and the
of
lynching.
stupid people who just, I mean, they're killing innocent people
Yeah,
for no
lynching people.
reason, and they don't have any evidence of anything. I mean, it's just ridiculous, these people, and because they're afraid, and also, Safi, I was mentioning that it's almost like with these Hammer movies, there's like a hierarchy to where, like, if you're not the director, then you don't have any say in the movie, because
That
they
could probably apply to nowadays.
no, not at all.
I don't know either.
Because I was talking about how Peter Cushing didn't want to do that rape scene in Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, and they forced him to do it anyways. And he didn't want to do it. He's Peter Cushing, and so if Peter Cushing can't get this stupid, unnecessary scene removed from the movie, then what chance does Barbara Shelley have of doing what she wanted to do? So I
But,
mentioned that.
okay, well, I also wanted to bring up that uh, having Christopher Lee play the good guy who saves the day was really something interesting too. I don't want to elaborate on that because that would be a spoiler alert. I don't think we really need to go into that because just watch the movie. And
The
but
effects.
it's just interesting to see him play something so antithetical to what he usually plays because we just watched a Dracula movie.
It wasn't really Dracula
And a Hammer Dracula movie, and you know that Christopher Lee playing Dracula is not a nice person; he's an evil person. So that's what was fun about this movie. You're kind of like opening your eyes and going, "Oh my God, what is this?" So,
What about Terror of the Tongs?
well, I don't think
Sophie.
he's a good guy in that. I think he's a mixed bag. But
He's a
anyway,
bad guy, but he's still a person. He's not like a
no, yeah, that's right. He's not a
monster.
monster in the Terror of the Tongs. He's just a crime boss.
But also, I wanted to mention that the effects were really good. I really liked the the part where the fathers turn into stone. That looks pretty cool.
That was an
And
interesting part of the movie. What happens is Bruno's
yeah,
dad and his brother come in, and first the dad comes and he checks everything out. He finds the truth, and he listens and he hears the sound. He's drawn to the sound. He sees the Gorgon, but he just like a second, and he runs and he manages to get to his room, but he's changing to stone like gradually. He manages to get a letter to his son and gives it to his, I don't know what, he's a butler or something, and says, just give this to my son because he knows he can't trust the people in the town. And that's how his son happens to come because he had written this letter. And then he's dead. And guess what they say? He had a heart attack. His whole body has been turned into stone, but they say he's had a heart attack. And when his son comes into town,
like Dick Cheney.
he has his body exhumed and discovers, yes, he was turned into stone. So, and, well, I was going to tell you who plays that guy, but that's okay. I did tell you the brother. Anyway, are you ready to give it your review? Because I don't know how much more
Well,
I
I
can
wanted to
talk.
also say that there were hardly any victims in this movie too.
No, there were.
And I thought at the end that she would be released upon the whole town, and that she would kill all these dumb townspeople who are just in a mob mentality. I mean, I thought I thought she would just be running through town and turning people to stone, because that would have been really cool. But she didn't do anything like that. It was just this confrontation, which I like the ending fight scene at the castle between the two guys. I'm not gonna say who they were. One of them was the hero, and that's all I'll say. But I like that confrontation. I thought that was very well put together. But overall, I would give this movie a a bowl of cream of wheat with too many clumps and not enough sugar. Not enough sugar represents the lack of the monster, and the clumps represent Peter Cushing, because every time he comes on screen, it's like a shot to the foot, and then like a shot to your hand from how much in pain you are from watching Peter Cushing act completely unnatural. So
Okay, well, I gave it a mixed bag of dishes, alright?
you gave this movie dishes?
Different foods,
Oh, okay.
dishes, like a part of a meal, a whole meal, actually. First, I think Peter Cushing represents a good salmon fillet that you usually cook well, but on one night when you're sick, which I've been sick many times, I overcooked it and dried it out. That
She
represents
overcooked salmon because she thought. In fact, I don't. The oven is screwed up.
the
It
timer.
says it's, well, the temperature too, because you said it wasn't getting up to the temperature. I
It's
don't
because I
think so.
had the timer on.
I don't think so. Oh, well, I don't think so at all. Actually, I just think that it didn't say that it was up at the temperature, but it really was. And so I think that because then she tried to overcompensate by leaving it in longer, and it overcooked. So I think it was at the temperature.
Okay, well, anyway, that thing where he's usually good and on one particular occasion it's not, that represents his entire role in the movie because you usually like everything he does, but not this movie.
It was fresh sockeye salmon too.
Next, instead of the usual Thanksgiving sweet potatoes in a baking dish that I usually do, sprinkled with brown sugar and marshmallows and bake for a bit, I made something different this year, hoping it would turn out. I peeled and cut sweet potatoes and mashed them with buttermilk and brown sugar and covered it up with a topping of chopped pecans mixed with flour, butter, and brown sugar and baked it. Surprisingly, it turned out well. That represents Christopher Lee's part in the movie, which was the last 25% of the movie. Okay, so anyway, like I said, the movie for me was a mixed bag, and uh, it's hard. You have to look at the attitude of the town, and then you look at the monster, which really had a very probably less than 25% part of the role. I mean, the normal human formed assistant to Peter Cushing. Now, she was in the movie quite a bit as a normal human, beautiful lady. And Peter Cushing had a big crush on her. That's why he knew all
He
about
didn't
her.
have a crush on her. They were having an affair.
Well, he was protecting her and doing bad things by letting people get lynched and accused of things they were not committing, of crimes they were not committing. But the thing that stood out for me were the Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee's roles, how they were like
They really
opposites of
screwed up the movie.
of what they usually play. So that's why I focused in when I reviewed it on their roles.
There's nothing else to focus on. I mean, the main hero is boring, and the main story is about how the town is terrible and there's a monster that's preying off of their fear and their stupidity. So it's really not about the monster, and it's not about the monster making the plot. So it's really too bad they never made a sequel, because they could have made an actual plot with where the monster was actually doing things.
Yeah, but they killed the Gorgon, didn't they?
Well, I don't know what they could do.
Well, I guess we don't want to say. Okay. So we will have two more scary movies and a whole bunch of Hallmark movies, and then maybe some. Well, I guess we won't do those. But anyway, we will be doing them. We even though we didn't record or write or do anything like that, we did watch movies, because when you're sick with this virus from hell, all you feel like doing is either sleeping or maybe watching some TV, and that means watching movies, and maybe a few TV shows, but not very many. And sports, go Chiefs. So, we'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.